Hello again to my Grey's Anatomy people. It has been a very long time, but there is a new season, season 20 of Grey's Anatomy. Yes, they are still making new episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and yes, I am still crying at all of them, even though I don't really care about the characters anymore, and the characters that I do kind of care about, they've kind of turned to shit with bad writing choices. And get this, Sam doesn't even watch Grey's Anatomy anymore. She's given up. She hasn't watched the last season for sure, maybe 2 seasons. So at this point, I'm just torturing myself, but also mostly it's because of Owen. Owen is one of the few characters still on Grey's Anatomy, which I know is a reason that a lot of people don't care about it anymore. But while he's there, I will also be. Anywho, the last time I made one of these videos, I stopped after season 17 because season 18 was getting ready to start, which means that I have 2 seasons to catch you up on. This is gonna be Cry 234 to Cry 260, which means that we only have 26 cries combined in the last 2 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, which I would think kind of gives us an idea of how I felt about them. As discussed, I haven't really super enjoyed it as a whole since season 12, I think. For sure after 14, I cared less and less and less. But I feel like season 12, for some reason, that was the real, like... I am currently rewatching Grey's Anatomy, which I never thought that I would say, but Sam is correct, surprise, surprise, that it's great to like put on in the background because it's a nice mix of like, yes, there are gut-wrenching, dramatic episodes, but at this point I know when they're coming. And for the most part, they're just like, you know, dramatic, but also a little silly. I already know the characters, I know the storyline, and I can skip through all of the surgeries that I didn't like watching the first time now, which I really appreciate. So, I haven't looked back over these, and I honest to God do not remember what happened in the last 2 seasons, besides the fact that they were slowly phasing Meredith out and they brought in Nick, and I loved Nick. So I'm very happy about that, but I don't really remember what happens besides that. So this should be interesting. Hopefully I remember the context of some of them. I'm ready. I'm a drink girly, so I have coffee, a Baja, and my water. So I'm ready to go. So let's start with the very first cry. This couch is so noisy. Of season 18, which was Cry 234, Megan's return and Peter Gallagher's introduction. You may recall, at some point I said something about, I love Megan, I was excited that they were gonna bring her back, but I didn't want them to bring her back if they were going to break up her and Riggs. That was so stupid and pointless. Just let someone be happy. She had a happily ever after a really traumatic, hard life. They were so good together. Their final episode when they went to Malibu, as you may recall, was one of my favorite episodes of the whole show, and they ruined it. What for? I don't understand why they couldn't have brought her back and her and Riggs still been together. Like she was coming up to help with certain surgeries like they do with Addison. Like, why? Why? I don't get it. So anyways, I was still happy to see her at first, as I love Megan very much. So I cried at Megan's return. I also cried because Peter Gallagher is just an angel. I grew up watching the OC. So from a very early age, I was introduced to him as Sandy Cohen, who Sandy Cohen's perfect. Not really. He messed up a lot, but like, he's just so endearing and he's just exactly what you want, like a sitcom dad. It was not a sitcom. A coming of age high school drama dad to be. I've always loved him. The man just seems like a saint. I was so excited for him to be in Grey's Anatomy. So as soon as he popped up, I shed a little tear. Similarly, Cry 235, season 18, episode 3, Addison's return. I'll never not be happy that she shows up. I think she's the one character that they figured out very early on how to keep her in the show and for it to be like appropriate and make sense and for it to not be wasted. I really liked what they did with her character this season and I'm always happy to see her back was the point. So the next couple are for sure about her. Cry 236. Season 18, episode 3 is Meredith and Addison reuniting. And cry 237, which was an ugly cry, is Addison breaks down about Derek in the elevator with Meredith in that same episode. I loved the idea of the new interns being convinced that they hated each other and everything, and then them being on good terms. I just absolutely loved.
Did they have it out in the OR?
No, but there was tension.
There was definitely tension.
We can hear you.
Stairs.
And so that was so like bittersweet to see them, especially in the elevator, like talking about Derek. And this being like the first real conversation that they had about it was, I just thought, really, really sweet. And I love that they like let Meredith be sad for her, be empathetic enough to understand that like, yes, Addison, regardless of the fact that she's moved on, that was like 20 years ago, like she's going to be devastated that Derek died. And I absolutely love that they let her have that moment. And then this goes hand in hand. Another ugly cry. Cry 238, the same episode, when Addison meets Derek and Meredith's kids. I don't know who decided they wanted to do that and why they wanted to break everyone's hearts, but they succeeded.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Were you Daddy's friend?
I was, yes. I'm Addison. But he called me Addie.
That's one that I have revisited that scene. Like every time it comes up on my TikTok or whatnot, like I stop and watch it every single time because I just think it's so sweet and heartbreaking to think about. Season 18, episode 4, cry 239. Owen asking Hayes to get a drink after work. This is so silly, but I don't know, grown men trying to like make friends. I don't know why that's so cute to me, but it is, and I cried. So Hayes. I really, really liked Hayes' character. I thought it made sense for him and Meredith to be into each other. I didn't want them to end up together because I think Hayes is way too self-serious, and like to have two of those people in a relationship together, I feel like wouldn't have been good for Meredith. And he's also just dealing with his own trauma. Meredith has got plenty of that to go around and she doesn't need to add to it. But I really liked him. Cry 240, season 18, episode 4. Meredith and Nick talking about going to dinner after she returns to Minnesota. I just love her and Nick so much. This is one of the best writing decisions that they've made. Is somebody went back in their little documents and files and was like, oh, you remember that one guy that we brought in for that one episode that him and Meredith had like this outstanding amount of chemistry that no one could put a finger on? Maybe we should bring him back. Maybe he's Meredith's endgame. I love that. I think I've seen that people don't like Nick, and I'm not totally sure why. I really don't know why, other than like people just liked Derek. But it's like, why would you want Meredith to be like alone just because you preferred her with Derek? Doesn't make any sense to me, but I really, really love Nick. So I'm sure a lot of these cries will probably be about Nick and Meredith, if I had to guess. Cry 241, episode 18, nope. Season 18, episode 5, Ben stepping out of the ambulance and Miller dying. I just love Ben. Cry 242, in the same episode, Owen's PTSD episode. Cry 243, Ben saying he told Miller that he would take his daughter, in the same episode. Ben is just too good. He's just too good for the world. Much to Bailey's dismay a lot of the times, but I thought that was very, very sweet. Then we jump a lot. Cry 244, Meredith introducing Nick to her kids. It's just such a big step. And you knew that Nick was gonna be really good with Meredith's kids, and it was just so nice to see it finally happen. Cry 245, season 18, episode 15, Meredith and Nick celebrating his transplant and Meredith deciding to take the job in Minnesota. I was just so happy for her to like, to choose Nick, to choose to like be okay with being in love again, but also, I don't know if they were gonna phase her out of the show, which I still don't see a point in. It's called Grey's Anatomy. Why would you do that? But if they're gonna phase her out of the show because Ellen Pompeo is done with it. Understandable. I'm so happy that it was like her choosing to leave Seattle behind, because as much as we love it, it's been a constant place of trauma for her. And so her like choosing to leave, I think, was the best case scenario. It made me happy that like it felt like she was constantly choosing things for her and for her kids, and I love that. Season 18, episode 18, Cry 246, and it's Boki saying,
"We are Americans. Your face is American."
Cry 247, Nick and Meredith saying, "I love you," in season 18, episode 18. Cry 248, Meredith's first flashback. I don't have context for this. I didn't even put an episode next to it. So we're gonna have to figure that one out in post.
That's one of us down there. Where's your loyalty?
This is your arena. How well you play, that's up to you.
Okay, well, Cry 249 is the quote, "Hello forever," and Simon dying. I don't remember who Simon is. Simon Clark was okay, so he was a patient. Oh, his wife was pregnant, and he made it up in his head that he was gonna live long enough to meet his son. So they gave him more time. His wife had her baby, and they let him meet her. And then my guess is that was the hello forever. I guess so. And then I have paired with that Owen leaving Amelia. I also don't remember the context of this, but I get so excited by the phrase. Cry 250, first flashbacks with Meredith as she's watching the interns pack. Cry 251, season 18 finale, flashback montage while the orchestral version of Chasing Cars plays. I'm a sucker for a montage, good or bad. It doesn't really matter. If it has music behind it, and we're like being real sappy and we're like looking back at what has happened over time, it doesn't matter when or where, I'm gonna love a montage, and I'm probably going to cry. I cried. I cried a lot during this one. I don't know if I love it as like the very end of the season. I wanted like, I know we have like the angst of her having to choose at the end, but I kind of wanted more of a resolution at the end of the season versus having to wait to the next season. Not because I like was too impatient to wait for it. I think it just would have hit better and had a better landing, but I love this montage. And obviously the song is just perfect. I'm hearing it in my head now. If I lay... Cry 252, Addie losing her patient after the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I thought her involvement in this season was so well done. It was so prevalent, obviously, to what was going on at the time. It made so much sense with her character, and it gave her the perfect scenes to do what she does best, which is to be powerful and righteously angry, but also to have that like tragic sadness that she plays so well. And to have both of those things at the same time is one of my favorite things in the world. And Kate Walsh does it so freaking well. So I loved her involvement in this season. I thought this whole storyline was really, really good. Cry 253, Mayor texting Jackson that they were leaving Seattle. I love how they developed Meredith and Jackson's relationship as we got into the later seasons. Obviously, partially just because, like, again, he was the only one left there with her. And so they had to give her not someone to replace Alex, because I think that diminishes Jackson and Meredith's relationship. I've always loved their relationship. I loved it even more like on a rewatch, picking it up from the beginning. But like, I don't know where I was going with that. Just, I loved the way that their relationship played out into the later seasons and how he was such a big part of her getting to leave Seattle. Cry 254, Mayor's house burning down. Sam was pissed about this. She didn't watch the season, but she knew that it happened and she was pissed. I loved it in the sense of like, that was giving her one more reason to be like, okay, like there's nothing to stay for. Let's get out of here. But of course it was still devastating to see it happen after, you know, 20 seasons of like living in that house. As the viewer, like the viewer living in that house, not Meredith living in that house. Cry 255, Amy crying after she saved a baby in Christopher's memory. Cry 256, Meredith's goodbye party. Cry 257, season 19, episode 12. The opening of the episode after Addie and a young pregnant doctor gets clipped by a car outside the clinic. So this went viral on Twitter and TikTok because it was just not, it was not blocked or edited well, and it was so obvious that they weren't even like a little bit close to the car, but it was still dramatic and there was the potential of Addie being hurt, and so I still cried. Mostly I think because it fed into the next cry, which was after Addie's shoulder is popped back in place, she controls a surgery for the doctor who got hit with her. It just got so dark in here. But the idea of her fighting through the pain and being like, nope, just pop it back in place and everything, I think was the main reason why I cried. But yeah, that was poorly filmed. We already only have 2 left. Cry 259, Yang sending Addison stock for her van. I'm gonna cry again right now. Basically anytime that they like talk about Christina and they allude to the fact that she's still like out in the world and she still like has a good relationship with the doctors at Seattle Grace, it just warms my heart, as I'm sure it does everyone else. And I thought that this was great because Christina would absolutely stalk her van to continue what she was doing. And the last one, Cry 260, Bailey finally wins, the Catherine Fox Award. I thought it was so good the way that they did it. I'm not crying about Bailey, by the way, I'm still crying about Christina. But I thought it was so good the way that they finally like gave her the award by her thinking that Meredith was gonna blah, 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 whatever. I thought it was a good reveal. I'm still so angry at Bailey. And she really, this last season, her like chewing Meredith out was not it for me. I'm kind of done with her completely at this point, but I was still, it warmed my heart to see that she like finally got this thing that she always thought she had been working for, and to see how they do it was very cute. So those were already all of the cries from the last 2 seasons. This next season, what am I looking forward to? It looks like Meredith is back in it a lot, and so I'm interested to see if they've just been using her in the trailers and the previews and whatnot to like try to convince people to continue watching, or if she's actually in it that much, in which case I'm not gonna be happy about it because I just explained how happy I was for her to leave. What else? I did find in this last season I really enjoyed the interns again for the first time in a long time. I feel like I was like interested in what they were going through. I'm sure part of that being that like one of them is connected to Derek and Meredith and Amy and all of them. But yeah, I felt like I actually cared about the interns again, was interested in their romances and whatnot, which has helped a lot. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know how much I'm looking forward to it, but I will continue watching. I'm a completionist. I need to see it. I need to see how and when they finally decide to end it. But at this point, I feel like it just should have been a spinoff or something. I think they're too high on the idea of like them being the longest running medical drama, whatever. And they don't want to turn it into a spinoff, but it just doesn't make any sense at this point, especially as Grey's Anatomy. But I'm enjoying my rewatch. I'm almost to the point where I'm gonna give up again though. I'm in season 9. So right now is actually one of my favorite periods of the show, when they get past the plane crash and they're trying to figure out who's gonna run the hospital and all that stuff. I really love and think is super interesting. So, you know, I'll stop within the next like 2 or 3 seasons, but I've enjoyed my rewatch so far. And I just kind of missed talking and posting about Grey's. So that's it. I don't know. If you haven't been here in a while, I've been posting a lot of videos. Mostly like for myself, truly. I just like archiving and chronicling like what I'm into and what I'm reading and watching at the time. But if you're a big reader or you really like movies, I've been posting a lot. So feel free to go back and look at those. Okay. I've never done a self-promotional ending to one of my videos before, so I feel very awkward right now, but